Hello, 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 and welcome back to yet another episode of Electricpreneur Secrets. Joe, if you can believe this is episode 320.
Oh my gosh.
320.
It
That's a lot.
feels so surreal at the same time because I remember sitting down and being like, this is our first episode together. And then going through and being like, we're going to do one every day. And then literally did the thing 300 times in a row.
And
It's
I
wild.
remember almost quitting too, feeling like, I don't know, man, is this working? Do people really want to talk about getting their service van sales up, fixing some of these holes? It turns out they do. At episode 320, I think we're well over 75,000 downloads right now, which is remarkable. That's remarkable. I look at downloads as like every time we've been able to help someone either improve their day, be influenced to do something great, get a big ticket they would have not otherwise had. Like, these are big things, man.
It's a really wonderful thing at the same time. I didn't always have the help, and it feels good to be the someone else's help.
I like that. Good perspective. And that's the biggest pause we ever had in an intro. So let me get fired up and let you know where you are. You are back on Electricpreneur Secrets. I'm your host, Clay Newmeyer. With me, as always, my esteemed co-host, Joseph Lucani. It's been a while since we called you the sales bot. I almost did it, though. And today we get to uncover a little bit more of that with this topic of how we can guarantee $50K a month or better from a service van. And I just want to give this a little bit of setting, if that's okay.
By all means.
So yesterday you dropped a post on a new offer for our program. Here's our flagship program, silver package, blah, blah, blah. We're not trying to sell you guys. We want to give you the insights on why we can make such a bold promise. So your promise was that for anyone that hasn't hit 50K months yet, that you could take them on and get them to 50K months with a money back guarantee in a period of 6 months or less.
100%. And
why do you feel so confident in that?
So we've started learning from a lot of different inputs that come in. And one of the things that I've learned is that you can make sure that all the assets are in place, but unless you help someone utilize them, it's no different than them not having it in the first place. So what we've done is we've developed the assets. We have the process, the exact play that I use to run 1.3 million out of my van. One service van, right? So we have the play that runs that. We have the classes that are in place to teach it and make it consistent. We made a bite-sized follow the bouncing ball program. We made an academy that you can access from your phone. But even further is that the key things, like the major levers that it takes to hit those numbers, we're addressing in force. Such as, you know what? You want to learn how to make your offer the right way? Great. We have a specialized approach to guarantee your pricing things the right way. You're struggling making 6 options? Great. I have multiple classes per week and other additional programs that we have, like the option splits, where I will personally build the options with you and teach you how I do it at a very high level. And then also the objection handling and the mental conditioning required to serve at a high level consistently. So if someone is willing to do these things, I think 50,000 should be the floor of what's capable. Like, this is not the ceiling. This is not like only a few will get it. It's like, you do the effing thing, you will get the result. This will happen, and I'm willing to put my money on the line with it.
I like that. And there's a couple of things you said there that I think really stand out for me. And there's an interesting result that's happening too. I'm going to save that for later, but you mentioned the offer early on. And we've seen, like, if you remember, we interviewed Eric and Mandy back last fall. And in 5 weeks, they were able to double their monthly revenue from, they were kind of sort of stuck mid 30s. And as they came on and shared with us, like, very quickly after 5 weeks of training, like, that's not very long, they had a month that doubled their monthly revenue. They hit 78K. And it was no actual surprise that they had just finished offer training. And even as we speak, I mean, there's just this extra layer, and not a lot of trainers or coaches or business people, even whatever you want to call it, are going to talk about this and address this in the moment. So I kind of wanted us to stand out in this particular instance.
Let's do it
and talk about why even yesterday, like we don't hit on every action post we do. We don't always get hands up,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And I can be vulnerable and say that because marketing is an exercise where we don't have a crystal ball. We
Mhm.
do our best to put out the right message to attract the right people to the right offer.
Mhm.
And that's full circle back. So yesterday, I feel like you really nailed this in your post because I think 22 hands went up in under an hour saying, wow,
Yeah.
well, if you're seriously putting your money where your mouth is, Joe, and you're going to guarantee me 50K months, then I'm interested.
Yeah. There were also people reaching out beyond just the comments. Like, it was funny because I was noticing that my inbox was blowing up, and I'm like, well, why weren't they commenting? And I'm realizing that some people may not have felt really comfortable saying that I am not hitting 50K months yet, but wanted to reach out to say, I want that. And that's
Mm,
totally cool because, at the end of the day, why you want to get there is entirely up to you. But as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, I want to help you get there. I don't care where you're coming from or where you want to go. As long as you want to do it for the right reason, I'm your guy.
yeah. And that in itself, though, is proof that when we tinker with our offer, when we get the offer right, it can really connect to your audience. So,
Mhm.
it's always interesting talking about us on here because it's actually about you guys. We want to help you with this. So, back to the Eric and Mandy story, and many others who have seen exponential growth very quickly right after the offer training. Like, make no mistake, just how you speak to what you do changes the outcome of the sales at the end of the month.
Mhm.
It's massive. So, that one massive piece there. But you also said something about, maybe someone's embarrassed about not being at 50K yet.
Yeah.
To that, I say, why?
So there's a very specific reason that I've come to understand. And it's really, I think, from my background in HVAC, because I've noticed being exposed to like those type of coaches and styles of training and things like that, that it's become almost a vanity metric, right? When you're pushing, I'm constantly pushing 26K, 26 SEER air conditioning systems. And as a result, I'm constantly hitting well over 100 a month. Or that's great. Well and done. But electricians don't always have that same metric. And if it's not the exact same thing, like I remember when I first started off, I was surrounded by HVAC guys and they were constantly hitting these big numbers each week. And me as an electrician, yeah, I was selling panels, selling generators, but it wasn't the same as constantly moving units. So, long story short, I think that the reason why some people are embarrassed is because the entire trades industry is trying to follow different models that don't always apply to us. And as
Mm,
a result, if we're not hitting these high numbers, we feel inferior, even though amongst ourselves we're doing very well.
yeah, for sure. I can appreciate that. And I want to add that I think 50K is a big ceiling for anyone that's selling and installing, or
Yeah.
as we would call it, like the service tech, right? The person
Mhm.
that's well rounded doing everything. Now, whether you're the owner or you're working for the owner, and that
Mhm.
view, that lay of the land is just kind of well rounded service techs all the way through.
Mhm.
At some point, that becomes a really difficult recruiting and training challenge with a
Mhm.
bigger gap, a bigger leap of faith. But also, you just hit a ceiling because if you're installing, you're not selling. And I mean, them's the facts, right?
Yeah. There's also one other factor that I came to learn from personal experience as well. And that was my sales exponentially increased when I got out of the van doing install. Like I was still doing service work, but I wasn't doing install. And the reason being is to do and be a good installer, it requires a certain mindset, right? It's either not rushing, but you're thinking in logistics, you're thinking in efficiencies, you're thinking in quality control. Like you have a different mindset when it comes to trying to sell a service. So when I had to split my focus onto two different things, I was catching none of them. But when I started shifting over to I am just doing service sales, it was so much higher because I knew that I didn't have to carry all the other mental burdens of, oh, I got to cut this in. And oh man, how am I going to offer this option if I'm too busy and I'm not going to have the ability of even taking on the job I sold last week?
That's a
So that's
huge
why.
point, man. That's massive. That's really big. And it's a great takeaway. And Dan's with us actually in the chat here to the side too. And Dan's saying, hey, it's such a big difference when the numbers stack for material slash unit costs, primarily a labor
Mhm.
estimate for electricians slash plumbers in comparison. So this is something else I was going to say. If you are if you're a service tech, if you're that well-rounded service tech and you're really trying to beat that 50, 60K months, I mean, let's be honest, a service tech doing 50 to 60K months, you're doing great. Like, thank you for your service. Wonderful job. To get above that, it's coming from your pricing or your markup on your pricing, right?
It
Markup on
all,
materials. Some guys get into the crazy stuff. You've seen 100 to 200% material markups just to get that gross profit margin up and just squeeze more from your hours. But like you said, without shedding the hours of install, at some point, you're just at the ceiling. You need the framework and you need to lay out your training in a way that's conducive to bringing in installers, training up to service tech and up to salespeople to really release people. I mean, Dan, actually, having commented here, sorry to put you on spot, Dan, but Dan himself, one of his guys, had some big weeks here recently because of that framework of being able to release control and empower your people to sell.
Yeah. It also leads us, I think, into the next topic, which was the actual options themselves. Because there's ways that you can make your options better without having to add more hours to install. And what I found was really helpful with that was with club memberships, with maintenance agreements, and with value enhancements. Things that you can do for someone that don't necessarily equate to immediate hours, but do equate to a long-term service agreement with them. Such as if I were to set you up with a generator and I included 5 years of generator maintenance, that's adding potentially $1,500 to $2,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 on top of your total without a single hour added in the current moment. But it benefits your client because they're paying for today's service or paying for tomorrow's service at today's rate. They're not paying the tax on it. And ideally, on top of that, they also know that they have a secure agreement. They've paid once and they don't have to pay again. So you're serving your clients on an ethical level. You're also able to produce more for your company, and you don't have to expend more service hours. Same with your first class pass. If it's offered over the phone, and then it's offered at the tech, and then it's offered even at the install level, it becomes something that so many people are going to be exposed to that it almost seems foolish for them not to add it onto their agreement. And it's going to be offered in so many of your premium options that, sure, even if you sell 10 a week, you've added 10 hours that you didn't have to put a single hour into yet. Those are future hours you can add to your slow season. So it protects you, learning how to scale and create real premium options that make your customers' jaw drop.
Yep. I couldn't agree more, man. I would argue, and not with you, but I would argue with anyone that says they could do better than 60, 70K months without working on premium options. That's just what it takes. I mean, if you're not offering VIP options to even the middle class people that you're serving, then you're missing some huge opportunities.
And I'm also going to challenge that statement because I feel like there's going to be someone out there that's going to be like, well, I can, and I want to speak as to what that doesn't need to look like.
Okay.
I'm not talking someone going in and selling a rewire once and striking out the rest of the month. We're talking about someone consistently closing at a high level and having their customers thanking them for being there. That's what's equated to a $50,000 a month at our level. This isn't just pushing a box. This is really educating your client and serving them, truly serving them to where they almost feel bad for not tipping you as you leave. That's what we're trying to demonstrate. So it's not the number. It's the fact that the number equates to you performing at such a level that we can stand behind it and say, if you do this and you do these things, you will succeed or I will pay you.
Absolutely. And speaking of numbers, I mean, that's what this is. It is a game of numbers. And we're willing to bet that the math is on our side. If you run a certain number of calls and you offer a consistent certain number of options and you run that play consistently to talk to that person, build a relationship, and just be able to sit with them and help them buy from those options, then in time, I mean, we've seen it. Where are some of the records? I mean, quickly, I think back to the podcast episodes, and I mean, 39K platinums, 68K, 89K. I think Dan hit an 89K or 79.
Just one today. Jared just came in and closed a $50,000 rewire plus with a first class pass. I mean, the benefit is that people who've worked with us and who work with us still get the benefit of what we've done. So the fact is that it doesn't matter the total ticket. It matters the consistency in which you deliver that ticket.
Absolutely. It's just a matter of time before another big ticket lands in your lap.
Exactly. Demand call lotto.
Yep.
You just gotta pay you gotta play or play to win.
Yep. Absolutely. I was going through wins earlier, and another interview we had was with Zach Bennett earlier. When was that? Fall. And Zach had an amazing quarter. He did like 340K. But one of the things I love about Zach is Zach was very selfless in his approach to sales.
He's an
He
amazing
never
kind of person,
hogged it from the team. The whole team is contributing to that. So when they had 120K month, he was really a third to, maybe just a little bit more, the bigger contributor to that. But ultimately, he was still taking afternoons. If you remember, that's kind of how we talked about Zach, was like he did this 120K month, which was a huge month for him and the team. But he was also going fishing in the afternoons with his son.
And that shows true success, in my opinion. Like, the only people that are going to know that we worked late are our kids. That's it. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so meticulous about being a good father. I will respect good fathers more than I will respect any good businessman.
You just brushed me back with that. Can you say that again?
Sure. So I heard this quote that shocked me to my core, and it made me want to be a better father. And that's this: the only people who will remember that you worked late are your children. And the sad thing is, I remember that as a kid. My father's a good person. I can say that now. I think he's a good person. But I do remember being a kid and not wanting someone to work 2 jobs at night. You know what I mean? I wanted the dad, and I understand the reasons why, and I can respect it. But as a child, I didn't understand it. And you don't forget those feelings of why are you leaving? You know what I mean?
That hits
So
hard.
even if you had the right reasons, even if you can justify it, even if you look back and be like, yeah, it's hard. And I want to make a life where my children don't have to worry about that either.
James says he's going to steal that in the chat. On guys, if you're not with us in the Facebook Live in the group, you could be. Electricpreneur Secrets, what it's called. If you're just listening, join us there. Dan's correcting me. He says that actually ended at a 91K platinum for that rewire. I tell you, it was a 91,000, right? Dan could have slept in. He could have got drunk the night before, slept in. Not saying you're a drinker, Dan. Just giving the absolute, take it to the ridiculous opposite of how sales can really go, right? Yeah. We've got this choice to wake up today with confidence, put a smile on our face, and rest assured we're going to go serve someone at the highest level. And things like this just happen when we're in that right mindset and we're equipped with the right tools and we're just ready to be there at the highest level.
I agree. I mean, like, it's literally, once again, bringing it back to parents. Like, I wake up early at 4:30 every morning so that I can have time for prayer, so I can have time for workout. One, to make me better, but mostly the main driving force is when my kids get up, I want to be the best version of a dad I can be for them. And I can't do that unless I've got that kind of head start and prime for the morning. And I think the same applies to sales because, once again, Dan, you have my undying respect. You are an amazing human being. And I loved working with you one-on-one on a consistent basis. The thing that we have to focus on is that you chose to operate at the high level. That operational high level is a consistent activity. You can't just wake up and say, I'm doing this once and then going back. It's a scale that continually climbs. And as you keep doing that, your level of skill exponentially grows with your dedication and consistency to that skill. So keep on the same path, man. You're really going to blow everyone out of the water.
Yeah. When you think about that effort over time, man, the sky's the limit, right?
It really is.
I want to take a moment here with Dustin because he said, damn, the American dream got us. My dad got me as a workaholic, and now with kids, I've opened my eyes to it. You don't notice till you're too old. Dustin, I just want to say I share that with you, brother.
Yeah.
And I really want to point this out. I love the turn we're taking here because anytime we talk about revenue or revenue goals, we get these priorities mixed up. And I want you guys to make no mistake. Both Joe and I are proud fathers to 2 daughters apiece. And I've made my overworking mistakes. Joe's made his. Like, we're with you on this. And in no way, shape, or form do we ever put business ahead of health and family. It is health, family, then business. The best thing about this is we can actually learn to do this thing without working crazy hours, without losing your weekends, without losing that time with your family.
one of my close friends, Josh Lupo, told me something that stuck out. And I don't know if he came up with it or if he heard it, but it was an amazing quote. And it's, America doesn't run on Duncan. America runs on consumer debt. The American dream is an interesting thing, but it's a path to debt. Buying more things and doing the things and having the car and having the house isn't as important as having a home. A home is the thing inside of it, the family. The house is just the thing. So it's so crazy where, Dan, you're like, you're right. You're right, man. Like the thing is
It was
that we get,
Dustin. Sorry.
Dustin, forgive me. Dustin, forgive me. You're right. You have this situation where you're like, the American dream kind of tricks you. And we're doing all we can to kind of put a lens on that and say, you can work hard and you can strive for an income. But if you're just trying to do it so you can hoard your wealth like a dragon and sleep on it, you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're doing it to build generational wealth and really change the world with your wealth, I want to rally behind that kind of person.
Absolutely. That's really well said, Joe. Dan gave us one little more nugget here that I just want to share. So Dan said he's invoiced $212K so far this month. Congratulations, Dan. But he's only estimated one of those projects. This is the important piece. When we're talking about, being home for the family, prioritizing health, really big congratulations to you, Dan, for being able to step back and still have significant months in your business. Sky's the limit for you guys. Really proud, you guys. Really proud. There's one more thing I wanted to cover here, Joe, on this. And we got to be mindful of the time, of course, today, but there's been a few people that have reached out for this specific 50K offer that are already doing 60K plus. One person reached out, I think just an hour or two ago, already doing 146K this month in sales. Why do you think that person reaches out, or these types of people would reach out even with the 50K offer? What do you think's happening there?
So I can only take my own personal assumptions, and it's never meant to almost devalue anyone, but what the offer represents is it shows different people different things. For those who are under 50K, it shows that that number is possible and consistently doable. For those that are over it, it shows that we're capable of having a process in place that will help them break through whatever ceiling they're going through. The fact that we're so confident that literally we're like, I'll pay for it. I don't care. If you lose, it's on me. If we're willing to make that kind of guarantee, then there's something that we can teach those people too. Whether they recognize it or not, it's very clear that they're coming because they realize that we have something that's going to help them break through whatever ceiling they have. Whether it's 100, whether it's 150, whether it's 200, there are things that we know that we'll be able to tweak, even ever so slightly, that'll get the game changed for them. And I'm excited for the challenge. I really am.
Me too, man. Me too. I appreciate that point of view. And I would agree it must be, right? Because, other than the vote of confidence, you see other people enjoying the offer and really, really, putting hands up to at least hear more about it. Says a lot about the offer. It says a lot about the community that we're in, but it also says a lot about, what we know about the serious salesperson, the person that really is on a mission to take it to their absolute apex. And they know that it's just these consistent little things. It reminds me of Warren Buffett, actually. You ever heard this before?
To talk about?
Why does Warren Buffett read 80% of his days?
Well, from what I understand,
that's correct.
Yeah. From what I understand, he's learned that there are some activities that he needs to do, and there's other activities that he can delegate to others, but that the constant accumulation of knowledge leads to the constant accumulation of wealth. The more you know, the better you can do with it.
Let me go a bit deeper with that.
Go for it.
He's looking for one thing. One thing. Because when you're managing, what is he at? 5 billion in assets or whatever the heck it is, all you need is one little thing to get another billion in the door. The higher you get with this monthly sales endeavor, the more minute the change required to see the lever push you up another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K a month. And before you know it, to someone who's doing 140K a month, before you know it, one little change could be what takes you to 200K a month. And then you just never look back, and you become the Warren Buffett in that situation, looking for that next linchpin. What's this next little thing I just need to tweak?
I remember that. It's really cool when you see it in perspective. I like that a lot.
What would you credit for your sales success? Like the thing that you would credit, like if you had to choose one thing, what's the reason you were able to get to 1.3, Joe, in a year?
You're asking for one thing off the spot. There's two things that come to mind.
That's fair. I'll take it.
Yeah. The first thing is more of a sad story, that it's the grow or die mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
I trained to such a depth that was practically obsessive compulsive because I thought that if I didn't, I would take my own life. And I was training to such an extent because I was truly afraid that I was going to do that. And I figured that if I was going to succeed, I had to do it because succeeding meant life and failure meant I was going to end it. And that kind of intensity pushed me to do things that I don't know the average person would want to do or feel capable of doing. And I got them done. It's a hard thing to talk about, but it's definitely something that I did. The second was I invested in training. I invested in training anywhere I can find it. And when I found trainers that I thought could teach me things, I didn't question it. And I pushed every dollar I had into learning more because that training also led me to believe that I could stay alive one day longer.
Powerful. Powerful. Now, guys, that is not a shameless plug. No one's asking you to invest every dollar here. No one's saying that at all. Those are simply Joe's truths. I would point something else out about you, though. I got one more thing to add to this list.
Okay, I'm open to learn about me. What's up?
Now, it's got to be driven from this same place, I'm sure, but you are like so consistent, my brother. You're the most consistent person. Like you just keep showing up and doing the thing. Like crazy amounts. And to me, when I look around a room, I'm the guy that sees potential to a fault. I can look around a room, like if I could see everyone listening, watching, hearing this right now, I bet you 90 out of 100 of them, I could see their potential and motivate the hell out of them because I truly believe that they can do this too. I truly believe that.
And I believe in you too.
The only place that ever falls short is in the next activity. It's the next thing that we're meant to do that doesn't get done, that robs us of that potential. Because I don't think I'm actually wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're right. It's like, and this also is another plug. I mean, I'm speaking to all the people who grew up being told that they were gifted. Like I'm an autistic individual, and I was told as a child when I didn't know it at the time that I was gifted. And the thing about being gifted is that you're told that you have this immense potential. But because you're told that, so many people have this complex that gets developed around it to where they feel they should have achieved more at a certain time. And that fear keeps them from doing the thing because they feel like they actually won't live up to the thing that everyone told them they could do. And it's so interesting to think about because really, you're right, Clay. It's not what someone tells you you can do. It's what you're willing to show up and shovel to do. I'm willing to pick up the shovel each day until my hands are blistered because I know that if I don't do the next thing, I don't know if I'm going to wake up. So I'm going to keep doing the thing because I believe that my family is worth surviving for.
And now I'm going to run us right into the next options specialist clinic here. It starts in 8 minutes, but here's the thing I want to say to that. It's one thing to say we're going to shovel right now. But what happens when you wake up tomorrow and you have a migraine? Or you wake up tomorrow and your daughter has a cold? Or, she didn't sleep tonight, or the dog got sick, or you know what I mean? Like it's the emotional aspect of humans that truly limits us from our potential. And it's the emotional aspect of humans. I know I'm a heart on my sleeve guy that really shows us our potential. The problem is we're not fully in control of the emotions. And so the activity gets hindered. And unfortunately, I didn't go to the gym in the morning. but I'll go tomorrow. And if I don't go tomorrow, all of a sudden my whole slump just starts, right? And I won't go for a month. And I think so many people can relate to this because the truth is A to B is easy to see. And it's really fucking hard to do. Is really hard to do. And you, my brother, do that really well.
I really appreciate that, man. It's I hold your opinion in very high regard. It means a lot that you'd say that. So thank you, Clay.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
You tell me if it's offside. Kind of unplanned here, but we haven't really got into this before, but the making of you as a coach, the making of you to the $1.3 million sales tag, was it as consistent then? Was that like the real secret behind this?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Do you mind rephrasing it differently?
Has your consistency grown to this point? Or like when you were coming up and becoming the 1.3 sales robot? I got to stop calling you robot. I'm sorry, brother. But like in this instance,
that's followed me. It's all good.
The reflection of it. Were you as consistent at that time?
Yes, but for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
And it is going to be a long topic to get into, but I can touch on it and we can always continue on with the next episode if that's okay. But
that's okay, man.
Yeah,
if you're willing to go into it.
Yeah, I'm willing to get into it for a little bit. I was a monster. The thing is that I had learned what it took to survive, and I was willing to do anything it took to get there. But my focus was wrong. When I was younger, I thought that wealth and power and success and lusts being fulfilled, I thought that was success. And as a result, everything that I took, I rallied towards that. And though I was consistent in getting there, my motivations were wrong. So I was really good at what I was doing, but I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. When I started getting a better focus on life and really understanding myself better and learning that when I had my daughter, it changed my life. When I learned that I was autistic, it changed my life. I was doing consistency because I was so immersed in my own self-loathing that I could have done anything in the world because I was willing to burn myself at both ends to get it done. Now I'm more consistent than then, not because I'm willing to put more effort into it, but I'm willing to know when to stop. And I'm willing to know when to pick back up because I'm willing to run the endurance race, the marathon, not the sprint. I was holding fire in my hand and I was using it like a tool, but not realizing it was scorching my palms. So it's a hard question to answer, but
deep,
I would say,
I appreciate that.
But I would say that the consistency comes from the motivation. My why became so big after the years that the why not just disappeared. And now I have only one direction, and that's forward or die.
So at one point, I think I heard this, or you told me, or somehow I have this knowledge. Is it true that you attended 7 years straight the same event, Total Immersion?
That's true. Yeah.
Every year.
That is true.
We're going to run out of time, but like, I'm kind of itching to know why you would go to the same event year after year after year.
The short answer I can give you.
Okay.
The short answer is that I'm a man who's willing to learn from anyone. And when there are certain concepts that you find resonate with you, it's important to truly understand them in every possible aspect that you can. I needed to know certain things because I could not talk to people. So I was willing to learn from anyone. And by doing so, I figured if I learned and could study it enough, I could be happy. It wasn't the sale. It was just a means to get to happiness for me. And I factored that if I could learn the basics enough, I could become consistent enough that the feeling of happiness would remain. And that's why I kept going.
Wild, man. Well, I certainly don't regret it. Happy to have you here. We are absolutely out of time. We took this to the last minute. You guys, I drilled into Joe a bit. I don't think you saw that one coming on this one, but Joe, why don't we go a bit deeper on this next time if you're comfortable with it?
I'm looking forward to it, man. It's good to people know.
All right. you guys, I'm feeling an urge here to like change our sign off a little bit, and just let you know that we're going to be back next week with more for you in this effort to not only help you master your sales, simplify your pricing, and deliver premium level service, but to help you get towards your $1 million sales van, if that's what you're after, to help you get to that level of service that you desire. That's what we're really here for. Thanks for joining us, you guys. We'll see you again next week.
May you be blessed. I look forward to seeing you soon.